Go ahead and start, and because we're going to give our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves. So maybe by the time we get through the introductions, folks will have logged on. But good afternoon to you all. My name is Dr. Nicole Campbell, and I'm the Chief Impact Officer here at Smart Start of Mecklenburg County. Smart Start is your go-to organization for everything and anything for preconception to age 5, families, motherhood, and beyond. We're so excited to have you here with us this afternoon to join us on our conversation about kindergarten readiness in 2025 and what does that look like. We have an awesome group of panelists for you this afternoon. We've gone national with you and gotten some early childhood experts for you from here locally and from across the country. So we're excited to be able to share this conversation with you today on this rainy Monday. We're going to have our panelists introduce themselves to you all. And I guess we'll start with our local panelists. We'll start with Mary Margaret Cantor here, who is our Chief Early Education Officer at Smart Start in Mech Pre-K. Mary Margaret?
Mary Margaret, you're on mute.
Okay, we're going to move on to Shakika Moss.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shakika Moss, and I'm the Curriculum and Teacher Support Director here at MEC Pre-K under Smart Start. And normally I do a lot of our curriculum, our data, classroom materials, a lot of our community partnerships, teacher professional development, and then I also supervise our instructional coaches that go and support teachers.
Okay, great. Sharon?
Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Sharon Spigner. I am the Quality Assurance and Compliance Director with Smart Start. I have been with early education for 41 years, taught pre-K. Then I was a pre-K specialist and I worked at the state office on the NC pre-K program. And now I'm with the Smart Start Partnership. So most of my career has been working with families of low income, trying to enhance their view of education and how they can support their children.
And Dr. Mary Margaret Cantor, we came back to you. Are you able to get on now?
Trying again. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, this update, I don't know, it reset too many things. So, yes, Mary Mark Cantor, much like Sharon, I'm just a tiny bit ahead of her in my 44th year in early childhood education. The main part of my job as early education officer here is to oversee our countywide universal pre-K program, MEC Pre-K. But again, I come to this from many years of having been a classroom teacher, both pre-K and kindergarten, a teacher educator, a post-secondary administrator. So dealing with center director, working with early childhood in just about every way I can, and have watched the kindergarten readiness landscape change greatly in those 44 years. So glad to have this opportunity to talk about it.
Awesome. We're glad to have you. And I don't know if many people know in my former life, I was a school administrator, and I have reached back and found some of my professional friends to also be a part of this conversation. And we'll start with Dominique Foster.
Hello, everyone. As she said, my name is Dominique Foster. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. I am a pre-K4 teacher in Washington, D.C. I work at one of the top charter schools really in the country, Friendship Public Charter School. I've been working in mainly early childhood for the past 20 years. I did a few years of kindergarten, which is still early childhood. And then, of course, during some summer schools, I'll go up to first or second grade, but really just enjoy my 4 and 5-year-olds.
Which makes me super old because if Dominique has been in the field for 20 years, I hired her first year of teaching. And she's very modest that she's not mentioning, but Dominique actually was Teacher of the Year, Washington, D.C. in 2022, and she was a nominee for National Teacher of the Year. So we have some great minds here on the call. Dr. Marva Tutts.
Hi, I am Dr. Marva Tutt, and I am currently a Human Resources Coordinator for elementary schools in Richmond County School System in Augusta, Georgia. And like Dr. Campbell, I've had a wide array of experiences, and she and I had the opportunity to work together at Howard Road Academy in Washington, D.C., which is now Cedar Tree. And I also remember Ms. Foster. She was an outstanding early childhood teacher. And so I'm looking at the purview of how we're ready for kindergarten in 2025 in terms of social emotional well-being, as well as curiosity and play. So that's areas I like to focus on.
And Dr. Tutt, we're so happy to have you. She actually has so much vast experience. She was Department of Defense education leader. So very, very varied and wide experience, and we're glad to have her. And last but not least, Yesenia Martinez.
Hi, welcome families. I'm Yesenia Martinez. I'm an assistant principal in the Bronx at an all-girls charter school. I have varied experience as well. My background is in special education. I was a director of student support at one of Dr. Campbell's schools that she founded. And it was a marvelous experience as I was able to start my journey there as a kindergarten teacher, kindergarten ICT teacher. Prior to that, I was a UPK teacher and 3K for all teacher here in the city. So I have a wealth of experience in early childhood education. And now I'm bringing it to my current role as an assistant principal from K to 2.
And ironically, I was Yesenia's daughter's kindergarten principal. That's why I met her. And then she went through the ranks, and now look at her as an education leader. So we're so excited to start this conversation this morning. So let's just jump right in, ladies. How has kindergarten ready, the definition of that or what that looks like, changed since before COVID? What kind of modifications have been made? How has the landscape changed? Anybody want to go first?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I would say just post-COVID, administrators, even kindergarten teachers, when we kind of meet with them about, where our students have struggled from the previous year, they definitely want them more familiar with technology. They spend a lot of time in their K year on devices, testing, preparing for testing. So just familiarizing them with the technology in early childhood is what they have requested. And then really even now, all of our assessments, our formal assessments are done via iPad. So I have an iPad, the student has the other iPad. And so very little paper usage. And so that's one way it's shifted.
Is somebody?
Yeah. So I noticed post-COVID that a lot of children, we're making social emotional learning a priority. They have very limited contact outside of the home, except maybe some playmates or if they had siblings in the home, but they need self-regulation skills, learning how to take turns, managing their frustrations, and knowing just those people skills soft skills that we talk about later in life. A lot of kids are lacking those skills because they were in a confined environment during that time. And so it's important now that we really look at the social well-being of the students and teaching them how to play together and learn from each other and partner with other people.
Exactly.
And just to ping pong off of Dominique with the digital era, that's going to be both ways in and out of school. So families as well is going to really have to be ready to use technology. A lot of the school communication is through apps or emails. And so just be ready for that shift. It's not a lot of papers coming home in folders like it used to be. A lot of communication is through emails and family apps. So just to keep that in the forefront as well.
These are very important points that you guys are making. And I just want to reiterate to everyone, like the inception of kindergarten, the whole development of the concept of kindergarten was to be a leaping pad for kids to be able to transition into regular graded school. Before there was a kindergarten, there wasn't that time and space. So I don't want this conversation to be for parents to feel like, oh my gosh, now I got to run out and I got to get a computer tutor. I got to get a this or that, because this is the natural time and space where all these things should be developing and they should be happening. And so I think more than anything, this is a conversation to just kind of help you realize that all the things don't have to be in place, that you don't have to know all the alphabet and all the numbers. There's so many other things that are going to fall into place this year, but this is how it might look different from when you were in kindergarten or from an experience you might have had with an older child when they were in kindergarten. Um, so when we talked about social emotional, we touched on that just now with Dr. Tutt, but what are some of the social emotional challenges parents should be prepared for and will see in kindergarten?
So I'll just chime in there. So a lot of students are not able to just sit and listen to teachers provide instruction, even though they are using iPads and technology, but those iPads and the technology, they are very interactive, so that they're able to engage in that interaction because they see things moving. And but when you have a teacher up there just giving a lecture, so provide some opportunities for your children to be able to sit, play some family games, identify their feelings that they're having, because a lot of times they're not able to self-regulate. So identify their feelings. Oh, I see that you're angry. So let's see if we can do some deep breathing. Let's see if we can count to 5 or count to 10, and just to help them to self-regulate, because when they get in school, with all the other students, that is one of the things that kindergarten teachers are looking at. Can children sit for a period of time, listen to instruction? Are they able to self-regulate those emotions, even though they acknowledge that they're angry, but how can they self-regulate and be able to manage those emotions?
I want to add that it's an emotional time, especially for students who weren't exposed to pre-K, or wasn't exposed to early education. So going into the kindergarten atmosphere is going to be something new. They're going to be focusing on building relationships, getting to know their teacher, getting to know their peers. It's very important, that social emotional aspect of development, where we're getting the students into the classroom and acknowledging themselves within the space and really getting to know themselves as young learners, because now kindergarten has shifted into more academic focus, and students are really struggling with managing some of those academic pieces because they lack some of the emotional and grounding pieces that allow them to manifest their best selves within a classroom setting.
And I'm going to get on, whoops, sorry. I'm going to get on my favorite soapbox and say, parents, the absolute most important thing you can do is help your child understand that they are smart, they are competent, they are able to learn, that school is a good place, that they will succeed, and then help them to do that. It's great if they go in with a lot of, like, somebody already mentioned, I guess, Nicole, there's skills in place, because yes, Yesenia is exactly right. I mean, like I said, been in this going on my 45th year, and the demands of kindergarten are much, much higher than they used to be when I started out and when I taught. Now they're teaching in 3-year-old rooms what I taught in kindergarten. Um, excuse me. So the demands are pretty high, but those skills will come if the child goes in believing, I can do this. I'm competent. My brain works great. Kiss your brain every day. Give your child a reason to kiss their brain, and point out to them how much they're learning and what they're able to do. That really, really, really is the foundation for all the things that Yesenia and everybody else has already talked about that they're going to have to do if they go in feeling that power.
Anybody else? think that
I'll just give one tip, kind of to piggyback off of Sharon. And usually what I tell my parents after that first quarter at parent-teacher conferences, I would suggest to help with self-regulation is to just get a timer and almost start a challenge at home. So we're going to sit on the couch and let's just sit for 30 seconds. Try to calm your breathing, just sit still. We're not doing anything, we're just sitting. We do similar in the classroom. And then as time goes on, we're going to add more time and more time. And if they're struggling with 45 minutes, okay, we go back to 40. But you really want to help and support them, especially a lot of my busy boys. I still don't feel like even kindergartners should be sitting for long periods of time, or maybe we go outside to read the story, but it just depends on the teacher. So sometimes they also do have to figure out how to adapt to whatever environment they're in. And if the teacher requires longer sitting period, we're going to help you do it versus saying you just can't do it. So as a parent, I think you should at least try to support them and the teacher, you guys work together, where it's not like, oh, my child can't do that. Children are very adaptable. Sure, they can. We can give you some tools, but we're going to all work together because this is the space that they're in.
I think that you're exactly right, Dominique. Building them up and doing small challenges like that at home are always helpful. Those are things that families can do. And reiterating Mary Margaret's point about the power of yet. Like as a teacher, I used to have a T-shirt about that. That there are so many things that we can't let kids feel defeated. They can learn all of these things, but maybe just not yet. Maybe it's not your time, but eventually you will know these things. And we're going to look at all the things you do know. But the power of yet is so important to be able to empower our children with, because it doesn't mean not ever. It means just not now. Um, so let's talk about some resources you guys recommend to parents. So we don't really feel like, kindergarten is right around the corner. For some, it's like next week. Some it's 2 weeks. Some people who might be looking have already started. Um, what are resources that you guys can recommend for parents to use that can support them throughout this year in kindergarten?
One of the biggest things I recommend is the simplest thing, and it's really just conversation. Having natural conversations at home when you're in the kitchen and you're cooking, talking about the letters that you see maybe on the cereal box or measuring. It's so many different math skills, reading skills, literacy skills, asking open-ended questions when you're in the car and you're identifying some road signs and pulling letters off of that, and even maybe getting into sounds and colors. And so you don't have to have like any of these workbooks or things like that. It's just conversation and what you're doing every day naturally as a family, and bringing that into the conversation and bringing attention to it when you're with your child.
Fun, but not pressure.
Right.
Exactly. Because I just want to put that caveat in over there. Anybody else with some thoughts about resources or ideas of things that parents could do that will get kids ready?
So yeah, I think just family games are so important because it helps children to understand that they have to take turns. It helps them to learn the different aspects of being in a community, being able to go outside, putting things outside, walking down the sidewalk, talking about things that you see. Oh, I see your dad is out there mowing the lawn. Oh, I see your dad is out there cutting the grass, using the same types of vocabulary words, but different words that mean the same thing. So being able to show and point out things that your children don't know and being able to help them to emphasize that they are, like Mary Margaret was saying, those resources. So I'm actually going to put a resource in the chat box for you. It's the North Carolina Foundations for Foundations. But when you click on it, you'll go all the way down to Foundations for Families. There's some activities, some fun activities that you can do at home for literacy, for math, for science, and it's in English and in Spanish.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Sharon. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Resources for parents.
So, I want to talk about the local library story time, also your local bookstores. It's really important to model reading for our kids. And so when you get them involved in the library very early and show a joy for reading, a love for reading, I think that starts in the early years. And so I always use myself as an example. My mom used to take me to the library every summer, and we would do those challenges every summer. So I always exceeded because I started reading very early, and she modeled that because she was a reader also. And so instead of telling kids I don't like to read, even if you're listening to an audio book with them, it's just promoting that love for reading. And once again, it can be fun books. It doesn't have to be anything that's going to add pressure. Like especially young kids, they like to hear about their favorite athlete and things like that. So promoting literacy through things that they like.
And that's true, Marva. Even the audiobooks help to promote fluency because they hear what good reading sounds like. And we also kind of talked in our panel prep about even if you don't feel like reading a book, if you're tired that day, if you let your child read to you, even if they cannot read, they like sometimes do a picture story walk that helps learning to build context and things like that. So even though it might be something small that you think that is not really making a difference, it really does because all of these are parts of the reading process or developing as the literacy process. Did anybody else want to add?
Yeah, I was just going to also add something about readings. Just so get a lot of paper, just blank paper, and have children use different types of writing tools, pencils, crayon, markers, paint, and just let them create. And then at some point, you could say, tell me about your picture. So now you're getting some language in there and maybe writing some of the things that they've said and then going back and say, oh, let's read it together, helping them to realize that, oh, guess what? You're an illustrator. You can draw and just encouraging them, even if it does not look like what you think it should look like, just a high five, you did a great job. Being able to help them know that their writing is important, even though, the beginning stages of writing is scribbling. Oh, look at that. You did a good job writing that word that you just said. Always encouraging them to get better and better, and then modeling that appropriate skill with your child.
And I think along that line, Sharon, also, I used to always encourage parents to do things like, I know everybody doesn't like Play-Doh, but really manipulating that dough, even if you put it inside of a Ziploc baggie, that helps develop their fine motor. Because if you ever wonder why they use those big fat pencils in kindergarten and first grade, it's because their fine motor skills are developing. And it's not just because they're little and they just look fun and big. And that's why their crayons are bigger, is because their fine motor skills are not developed. So if you get that, you let them pinch the Play-Doh. If you look at how your fingers do when you do that, that's helping develop those fine motor skills. And like I said, even if you feel like Play-Doh makes a mess at your house, you could put it in a Ziploc baggie and they can manipulate it like that. I used to tell parents with the shaving cream on a cookie sheet, where the kids, you put some shaving cream and spread it out on the cookie sheet and let them do their letters with their fingers. That also helps develop fine motor. It helps develop, but it's also fun. It's not a lot of pressure. And you can always wipe it off and you can always try again. It's always really fun and it's not finite. There's no penalty or, negativity to it. Um, so any other thoughts for parents on fun ways and resources to prepare for kindergarten? Because
Yeah,
go ahead,
I'll
Dominique.
share. I think really parents are their children's one of the biggest resources. So really just your time and really what everyone else has shared. But what I'm very passionate about, that I think just leaves such a mark and lasting memories is, we are so caught up on, like Dr. Campbell said, you got to learn your letters, you got to learn this, and sitting down at the table and all of the things. And really what helps so much language development and all the things is if you have a story that they really love, or you introduce one. We do this in the classroom all the time. I know as the years goes on with stories, most students always end up enjoying. We choose at least one at the beginning, but we do many throughout the year. We decide we're going to reenact this story. But imagine if you do it at home and you get dad, he's a riot. He's going to play the best big bad wolf. You know what I'm saying? And then they have to go into the closets and you have to figure out what your costume is going to be. And you're doing this, and even if you just do it one time, they will never forget it. And they will fully understand the characters. And then they could start thinking about what could possibly happen next in the story. And then we can make up our own story and extend that. And now you're not even just pulling from the book. Now they have to create their own thoughts about what this character might, oh my goodness. Like this is what really, really matters. And this is what we do in the classroom often. We'll do it at least a couple times a year. But we got to pick out costumes. Maybe we're using butcher paper or whatever. They just love it. And then we have different students play the different characters. They absolutely eat it up. It is so fun. But imagine it at home. Grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, uncle, whomever.
Oh, that's awesome. You make me excited. You make me want to go home and do that today, Dominique. You make me want to go do it today. So these are all awesome thoughts and experiences just to get your thoughts rolling about things that you could do. Now, these are all experiences that we're talking about in preparation for kindergarten. Some students have been to pre-K 4, but some students going into kindergarten may not have. What would be the differences, or what would you see the challenges being at all, if any, if a child did not? If I have a parent that says, oh, I'm feeling a little bit nervous, my child did not go to pre-K and they're going to kindergarten. What is your advice about that? What are your words for a parent that feels that or has that little bit of trepidation? Is it necessary?
I think just I would encourage that parent to just really talk with the kindergarten teacher and share that. This is going to be their first time in a group setting. They've never been to pre-K. They've only been home with me, or between me and grandma, or whatever it might be. So that would be the first thing, is to be really upfront with it. But the teacher's going to know. I talk to kindergarten teachers all the time. My neighbor is a kindergarten teacher in our local public school. And we just were talking the other day, but the summer coming to an end, she's like, oh boy, I'm trying to gear up and get ready. You get those kids who've never been in school, and they're so teachers know almost right away. But I think as a parent, I'd encourage you to share that with the kindergarten teacher. Ask for a list of the kids' names that are going to be in the class, and begin to, I would do this even with a kid who'd been to pre-K, but especially one who hadn't. Ask for a list of the names and start talking about those kids to your child. Oh, look, there's someone named Jill and someone named Marie and someone named Jose. Do we know anybody else by those names? I wonder what they'll be like. What do you think, what do you think they'll like to play? If there's children that speak another language, you could do a little exploration online and say, oh, wouldn't that be cool if you went in, and said to Jose the first day, Buenos dias, Jose. I bet he'd be really happy. Anything that's going to help them break that ice and begin to feel, that they're going to belong. Because I'm sure that's their biggest, even for a kid who went to pre-K somewhere else and now goes to kindergarten and there's nobody they know. It's no one they were in pre-K with, is going to feel that initial trepidation. But a child who's never been in a group setting is really going to extra need that. This is what it's going to be like. You're all going to go in and the teacher will ask you to sit on the rug. I bet she'll read you a story. So I think prepping from both sides, letting the teacher know, and then, talking to your child about what's school like. How does it feel? What to expect? What kinds of things might happen in a day.
Okay. That's
And
awesome. Those are awesome suggestions, and I never thought about looking at the class list and like knowing some names before they go. That's awesome. That's a great suggestion. Anybody else?
Yeah, so I also was going to say, sometimes, to be honest, the students who didn't go to pre-K or did, and may not know as much, actually the teacher's going to spend more time with those students. It's a natural thing for teachers to do, because, they want those kids to know when to meet the standards. And as a parent, you really may be more worried about your student that actually went to pre-K and kind of already know some of those standards, because sometimes they may not get as much attention because the teacher is trying to, you know, catch up with other students. So just really be involved in your child's classroom and have conversations with the teachers just to find out, you know, what they're doing with your child, because sometimes it's challenges when students are high too, because teachers like, okay, they already know it, so I'm just gonna have them go over here and independently work. And you want those kids to continue to grow. You don't want them to be stagnant. You want them to continue to be challenged in the classroom, and so it doesn't grow into other challenging behaviors or anything else in the classroom. So just keep an eye on that too.
I think that's a really great point, Shakika, because in kindergarten, it can be a little bit harder for those kids to rise. And that makes me think of another question, because you will think that they're going every day and they know all the things, so it's really easy, but it'll be hard to identify when they're not being challenged in kindergarten, just because this is a leveling time, right? So, what about those parents who feel like when their child is going into kindergarten, because I've encountered this as an administrator, where they say, my child is gifted. Well, can they skip to first grade? Because they already know everything in kindergarten. Is it possible that you can stay in kindergarten and still learn more? Or is that like a real thing that parents, because we have parents who really want their kids to bypass kindergarten. They feel it in some states it's not even mandatory.
I mean, I think like what Dominique said, it depends on who your teacher is. I mean, that's just the honest opinion. If you have a teacher who is really good at differentiating and they able to challenge those high students, and that's one of the hardest things. Like you really have to be up there to challenge the higher students. But if you have more like newer teacher, beginning teacher type, they only know how to teach to what we call the bubble kids, the middle of the row. I'm only teaching the standard what everybody's supposed to be when they come to me, and they don't know how to go this way or that way, right? They don't know how to go up or to scale down, and it just depends on the teacher, how long they've been teaching, and their you know, training experience, all the things. That's why it's very important for you to build that relationship with your child's teacher, and also don't feel like they always the knower of all things. When you having conversations, you asking questions, you at the parent teacher conference, pull out some of that stuff and really ask the questions to ensure that your child is being challenged, and make sure you're looking at all those nice little charts that they're sending home too, and keep them. Like I have personal children as well. I have four boys, and when they send like the beginning of the year chart and then they send the other chart, I'm looking at both and I'm seeing how much growth he done had since the beginning to the middle, because that's gonna let me know what kind of teacher he has, and then I have conversations on that. So
Teacher's not ready for you. Teacher not ready for you, Shakika.
They hate to see me coming. They hate to see me coming.
The teacher is not ready for you. So in terms of that, also when I look at parents that have told me that their children were that they could go forward, that they didn't need kindergarten, you also have to look at those social emotional milestones. So going back to what Marva and all of us have touched on, is that while they may have the academic content, or they may be able to pass those pieces in terms of the social emotional mile markers, they may not be ready to move forward to be with kids. And so those are those two things that have to be juggled, that people have to realize, is just because you may have the academic content, social emotionally maturity, you may not be ready, and that might not be something that your child could be a candidate for. Did anybody else have any comments as it relates to that?
I did want to add, I was going to speak to the same thing, whether I have had this experience plenty of times, whether they are academically challenged in the classroom, the maturity sometimes does not add up, but it's also physicality. Some students are a lot smaller. Will they thrive and survive in a classroom that has bigger, taller students? We think of these things even when we want to leave a student back. Is this student bigger than all the other students? Are they going to have a social emotional regression because they move forward? It's thinking of the whole child when we make these decisions. And it's not just because you are bright. We love that you are bright. We love that we want to challenge you. We want to give you the content that you need to thrive and advance. But it's also about you as the whole child. I want to know you developmentally. Are you there and are you ready to move forward? And then those heavier decisions can be made based on those thought processes, understanding the whole child.
I also wanted to just go back in and just touch back on those children who have not been in preschool. So a lot of times, parents have anxiety, and your children see your anxiety, and then they start getting anxiety about going to school. So I know that sometimes, you have those relationships like, oh no, it's my youngest, my little baby's going to school, and then you start showing that side of anxiety, and then the children are like, I don't want to go, but it's because the parents are kind of antsy and upset about it. And then also, as you are preparing to go to kindergarten, if your child has not been, start looking at some kindergarten books. Go to the library and find some books, or ask the librarian, can you show me some books that I can read to my child? Talk to your children about, well, we may be on the bus, or another friend may be in a car. Talk about some of the things that are going on. And then the first couple of days that you drop off, we're going to take some pictures. We're going to come back home. We're going to talk about it. You just got to pump your children up to realize this is going to be such a great experience. But please do not show them your anxiety, because then they're going to cry, and then you're going to cry. So you've got to just be very, very positive about this is going to be a great experience, and all the pictures that you're going to take, you go home and you show your children. They can talk about some of the things that are occurring the first couple of days of school.
You're absolutely right, Sharon. You put on that brave face, because I have had kids that cry and they said, but my mom is going to miss me. That I have to go home because my mom is going to miss me. So they trying to keep a brave face for you. So that's absolutely right. That's a big piece. That was something that we kind of did, and I think Dominique will kind of remember this when we got to the point where when she's teaching pre-K 4, we would have parents that would stand at the door and cry, and we would just have to escort them out, because that lets the kids move on with their day. If you guys don't stand around crying, sorry.
Yeah. And I wanted to jump back on the academically gifted too. I don't know for all states, but I know here in North Carolina, they can still be academically gifted and stay in the same grade. One of my kids was tested and academically gifted, but he stayed. I didn't skip him, and he is in talent development, and they pull him out and do like additional standards for higher grades. So they still with their peers, but he also is still getting the challenge. So just know that that's an option too if you get to a point that your child is academically gifted.
Like that talent development.
I'll add in.
Somebody put a question in here. It says, my girls' birthdays are in July and August. In your experience, do you recommend parents of the kids close to the cutoff date wait until the next year to start kindergarten? What say you people?
No.
No.
I mean, never just because that's when their birthday is. There's always going to be the oldest and the youngest kid in the class, right? Regardless of when you set. And I've been through December 31st being the date. I've been through October 1st being the date. Now it's September 1st. We keep pushing it back, right? It's this endless dog chasing its tail, right? We push the standards up. We ask them to do more in each grade. We expect them to do more. So we say, oh, okay, well, we'll just send them in older. So now that's what got us back to September 1st. So now a July baby is like one of the youngest in the class. And it's just, always going to go that way. That kind of decision should be made exactly what Yesenia said a few minutes ago, totally based on the individual child. Also, now I'm gonna contradict myself a little bit and say you can't just have a rule and say that's it. But honestly, girls almost always mature much faster than boys, physically, even in some cases academically, socially. So I would never make that decision based on when their birthday is. I would look at everything overall, their development, talk to teachers, talk to the school. And make individual, because there's always going to be the oldest and the youngest kid in the class, and that never gives you an advantage or disadvantage one way or the other. It's completely the individual child.
Can I add on a couple things? I did a presentation a year or so ago on play for Black boys, and I talked about how much I've had to change or reflect on my teaching style and how I set up my environments, all the things. So I agree with what she just said. a lot of the development, we do see the girls maturing, but I'm not sure if it's because of overall the education system, the classroom environments, how much more, especially most of the teachers are women, how much we subconsciously or not even aware, we cater more to the boys, or even so I had to even start talking to my brother. He's a chemist, just about different activities, different centers, different whatever that I could set up in the classroom, really paying more attention, looking back at old videos. And so I have changed drastically on how I teach, and I see so much more engagement with my boys. So there is that. And then I would say, this is just me, this is my thoughts on skipping grades. Somewhat just as a parent and just as being in the classroom this long, if your child starts at 3, I do not believe a child should skip pre-K 3. Just coming into school, it's just not suggested for me. They need that social emotional. There's a lot that pre-K 3 teachers focus on, and I don't think a child should pretty much never skip kindergarten. There are so many things that I taught in kindergarten that's like most children just would not know. They might. We taught nouns, verbs, like what it was, how to name it, visualizing, main topic. So even if your child is smart, like, do they know what this is? Unless you've sat down and taught, you've almost had to homeschool. And then, okay, then your child is prepared. I suggest if you're going to skip pre-K 4. We have a lot of fun. We do a lot of great things. And they usually never want to, we want your class. We love your class. And I'm like, I just don't think at the beginning of the year, they're like, yeah, when my child is really smart, I think we're going to try to skip kindergarten. Like, can you get them? I can't. I actually have to teach pre-K 4. I can do a little bit to get them, a little ahead of where they are. But no, if you're going to skip me now, do it at the beginning of the year. So they won't be, they'll kind of, the social emotional, they'll catch up a little bit, but they'll be fine. But I just don't think you should skip kindergarten. That was my thought.
She says, skip pre-K 4. But Dominique is teaching pre-K 4 now, but she was teaching at the school that I founded in DC. They could come at 2 years old. They just had to be 3 by September 31st or something like that, December. Anyway, her class, one of her first classes, I have their parents as friends on Facebook. They're in college now, which is crazy that she started out with them in preschool at pre-K 3, and now they're in college. It's crazy. So now we're going to have our last question. And while I'm asking this question, if any of our audience have questions that they want to put in the chat, you could put additional questions in the chat so that when we finish answering this question, we could loop around to answering yours. So again, we're opening the chat now for questions from the audience, more questions. But the final question that I have for the panel is your hub of final advice for a parent whose child is starting kindergarten. If you could only leave them with one piece of advice, what would it be? Who would like to start?
I can begin. My piece of advice would be to be present and informed. Attendance is not just important for the school, it's important for the child's development, to be integrated into the classroom daily, seeing their peers on a regular basis, and really learning and growing together with their peers is very important. So being present is top priority. And then informed, know what's happening in the classroom, so then you can then integrate it into your regular life. We talked about doing community walks, adding it into our cooking lesson at home, really understanding what's happening so that you can then do it at home is very important. So you can have those long lasting communications or those discussions with your students so their language is continuously developing.
I'll go. So focus on connection over perfection. Remember that kids are human too. They have feelings. And when you redirect them, or you have to when you have to redirect them for something or bring them back on something, doing it in a positive light so they don't always feel like, well, every time I try something, I get in trouble. So remember connecting with them before you expect them to be perfect.
I like that. I like that.
I like that. And then also connecting with the teacher, like a relationship with your teacher. We always talk about like you go out to eat and you don't want to get in an argument with somebody who's cooking your food. It's the same thing with the classroom, right? You don't want to be like so rude, or at a person who watching literally have your kid for 8 hours a day, but you do still want to hold them to a certain standard and accountability. And so just make sure you're building that relationship with your school community, teacher, principal, and all of the above.
Yeah. And I would say the same thing. So we all know that the brain develops from a variety of different ways. I would just say use a lot of different music, songs, and other cultures to help your child's brain to develop. Anytime, you can have songs, poems, just playful activities, but Mozart, jazz, just any kind of music, just different types of music will help your child's brain to develop. And then I would also just say try to expose them to children that they don't know, like go to the playground, go to the library, so that they can be introduced to children that they don't know. Going to the library is very important because they'll be able to sit with other children who they do not know. So just trying to find different avenues for your children to build up those social skills and be able to like share with someone. Bring a toy, share with someone you don't know on the playground, play with someone and talk to another child that you don't know on the playground to get them used to it's not all mine, mine, mine. And then when they get into a classroom, it's just like the same type of mentality that they don't want to socialize with other children. So it's a little bit scary for little children to communicate with other children that they don't know, but this will be a great time to get out there and go to the different vineyards that they haven't been exposed to. Just, anytime that you can do any of those things.
Awesome. Who have we heard from for this question?
Me, I haven't, I'm gonna go back to how I started out, and that is, let them know that you believe in them as a learner. Let them know that you believe they're capable of this, at whatever level they're starting, and then with each progressive step, you believe in them, they believe in themselves, and it really becomes self-fulfilling. So yeah, lots of opportunities to kiss their brain.
Thank you. Dominique, did you answer that question?
Not yet, and my thoughts are similar. I would say just building up their confidence. We can see coming in, and I'm always just so impressed at children who come in so confidently. It makes me like want to salute their parents. And a lot of that is our job to build their confidence. Like we spent at least most of the first quarter really, working on different ways to build them up, to make them believe that they are capable, and that they don't have to be perfect and all the things. But when children come in already like that, you can tell that their parents have put in the work. And it just helps. It helps with their ability to learn. So even if they do not know yet, you see something like, oh, I can figure it out. Okay, I can't do this yet. They don't have full meltdowns, which is, I can't. And you see that so often at the stage. But I can't do it. I don't know. I just want you to give me the answer. Give me the words. Where like, I want you to have an opinion. You see the ones that come very opinionated. Like they have opinion on everything. But that's a lot of that confidence that has been built in them. And where it's like, I want you to have an opinion on why the sky is blue, just because they've been allowed to have that at home. And that's really nice. It really helps with everything in the classroom and beyond.
I think that's a really great point, Dominique, and that goes back to also a small thing that parents can do at home to help empower them is to allow them to make choices. And a lot of households and a lot of cultures, children are just told what to do. Like, get down from that stool. Don't sit on that, but why? If I do this, what will happen? What could happen? A big piece of learning is making choices. And that's a small area where parents can help their students to be able to be prepared, is to teach them how to make choices, even about their opinions. Because making your opinion is making a choice about how you feel about something or what you think and why you think that. So that's really great advice as well. So thank you for that. Let's get to some of these questions. So one of the questions is, in North Carolina, are children allowed to start in kindergarten when they're 7 if they're just starting school, IDD, or are they ever allowed to start kindergarten at 7? Do you guys have any knowledge or opinion on that, my MEC pre-K folks?
So school is not compulsory in North Carolina until age 7. So it's legal to not send your child to school until they're 7. I don't know. I think that's an individual district choice, what you do with that 7-year-old who's never been in school and shows up. My, I'm not going to speculate because I don't know I have not personally seen any 7-year-olds in kindergarten. So my guess is that child would come in, there'd be some assessments done, and they'd probably be put for social reasons in a age appropriate classroom, an age equivalent classroom, and then would receive some services or whatever other things might be needed to get them up to speed academically.
What do you suggest for parents whose kids aren't being sent homework? The school doesn't believe in homework. What do you guys say about that?
I will. I meant to mention that when you talked about what changed post COVID, I think that's another thing that changed post COVID across the board. I'm seeing less and less homework in all grade levels, and I guess it's because the students are already kind of working for like 8 hours a day with intense instruction, and when they come home, that's family time. And like I said before, that you having intentional conversations, exposing them to vocabulary, exposing them to experiences, you're going to get more out of that, believe it or not, than you doing some homework and just sitting down doing what we call a ditto sheet, a worksheet. You definitely would get way more out of just that language and conversation than you would doing homework. So your homework is going to be have a conversation with your child or read a story and act it out like what Dominique mentioned.
Ditto. Ditto. Everything she said, ditto.
Absolutely. There's a ton of research that shows that not only does homework not support learning, it actually harms it. For exactly what Shakika's saying, it's like, I just worked for 6.5 hours in school. Now you want me to go home and work some more? And especially for the child who's challenged with, first of all, never, ever, never, never, ever, never would that kind of homework be appropriate in kindergarten anyway. But then for the child who's challenged at school, and finds it difficult to have to come home and do more of it, to, intrude in my safe space and make me sit down and have to do more of that, is just not what we call developmentally appropriate. If there was going to be any kind of homework, that's what Shakika just said and Dominique has already said, send home, play a game of I Spy tonight. And when they spy it, they have to tell you the first sound they hear when they find what you're looking for. Yeah, it's that home interaction and those conversations and those real life experiences. Instead of sitting down and forcing them to do homework, take a walk. Even if it's raining, take a walk. Then when you come back, talk about how you feel. How did the rain feel? How did it smell? What things were changing because of the rain. So I'm talking about, not that sit down, like she said, with a ditto sheet and, make 27 P's or whatever it might be. So.
And 5-year-olds, they love to help their parents do projects around the house. So, when you're getting ready to wash your clothes, let's see if we can sort some of the socks. Let's see if we can play some fun games. Like a lot of children like games there where you can say, oh, Sharon, Sharon, Baron, Baron, rhyming. Use their name, do some funny rhymes. I mean, it's just so important to just try to find fun ways to introduce those learning activities for your children. Go outside, take some paper, paint on the ground. Go outside with some chalk and see. Let's make a two. Oh, well, let's see if we can walk on the two, because those are skills that they actually need anyway. Let's see if we can do some jumping jacks, and then you can count by twos. Let's see, 1, 2, 2, 4, 6, 8. So just make it fun, and they will all be learning at the same time when you make it fun.
I used to have a sign that I used to put on the copier where the teachers used to use it, like America's Most Wanted, wanted for crimes against children, excessive copies for people who are like sending home packets, thick packets, like that's crazy. You can just send home a list of ideas every week of things that they could do that are related, that are active, that are not necessarily sitting there skill and drill. And so we just have to be mindful of that. And just because you don't see a packet of worksheets coming home doesn't mean nothing is happening in the classroom, but that goes back to I think what Yesenia was saying about being knowledgeable about what's happening in the classroom, what they're learning, what they're doing. Just because you don't have a packet doesn't mean that there's no work going on, but you do need to get feedback from the teacher so that you have some understanding about what they're learning and what they're working on. Somebody asked, can you explain the difference between MEC pre-K and CMS pre-K admissions and or curriculum?
Yep, happy to take that.
Okay.
CMS has three public pre-K programs that they run. One is their program for exceptional children, early childhood exceptional children. That's for children who've been diagnosed, with some type of disability or learning difference. And so they receive special education services. The second program they run is called Bright Beginnings. That's their Title I money. Title I is aimed at low-income schools. That's what they're often called, Title I schools, where the greatest percentage of the kids who attend the school live in low-income situations. And so Bright Beginnings is aimed at alleviating some of the discrepancies that might be found in children's learning because of the low-income situation they may be in. And the third program, so those two are specific to CMS. The third program that CMS runs is NC Pre-K. That's the state pre-kindergarten program. And that's for children similar to Title I. There's a little more leeway in income, but it is income-based. It's for families who live at 75% or below of the state median income level. Title I is based on federal poverty level. NC Pre-K is based on state poverty level. So the criteria to attend all of those programs is very specific. It's either family income, Bright Beginnings. You can also access some of that if you have specific learning needs that don't qualify for special ed, but are specific. You can qualify for that. And then NC Pre-K. Our program, MEC Pre-K, is, and again, some of that's federal dollars, and then NC Pre-K is state dollars. MEC Pre-K is funded 1,000% by Mecklenburg County tax dollars. So it's a universal pre-K program. And the only criteria for attending is that you live in Mecklenburg County. You're 4 before August 31st and you live in Mecklenburg County. Curriculum-wise, we use a lot of the same curriculum. NC Pre-K, Bright Beginnings, and MEC Pre-K all use the creative curriculum. We do apply it a little differently, but we do use the same published curriculum. The CMS programs, special ed programs are all in public schools. Bright Beginnings classrooms are all in public schools. NC Pre-K are a split between some are in public schools, some are in childcare facilities. We, MEC Pre-K, are 100% in childcare facilities. Those are the biggest things, but the main things people always want to know is the funding difference and the ability to attend difference.
That's a pretty comprehensive description. So hopefully that answered the questions that you have. And that does it for the time that we have. Thank you, ladies on the panel, so much for your professional opinions. Thank you for the banter. I appreciate it. I'm so excited whenever I get a chance to get together with some of my educator friends and talk shop. So we thank you guys so much for being available, and hopefully this helped some people clarify some thoughts and some fears that they have about their children going off to kindergarten now or in the future. We thank you guys so much. Everybody have a great rest of your afternoon and great week. Thank you guys so much.
Take care.